That's right. Oh, she don't know love. Love is far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that would change when she's mine. It's not she don't want love, she just can't accept love, 'cause I'm having with love that's keeping her from love. Maybe an ex-lover, could be a father. I don't know, all I can tell how she relates to me. But I would give all of my heart if she would just believe. She don't know love, I love you. She don't know love, it's right here. Oh, she don't know love, I love you. Love is far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that would change when she's mine. It's more than sexual, I'm a reflection of the feeling that's in your soul. It's more than magical, girl, let me take you on a journey that you should know. Don't let the pain from your past keep you from what you're looking for. I promise to give all my heart, I'm the one that you adore. She don't know. Can you tell me the real man, the one that love you and protect your heart? Don't let your pain destroy love's far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that would change when she's mine. I can't let you go.
Good morning. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, universe. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sunshines. Welcome to our last chapter. We made it finally. I apologize if anybody was looking for me yesterday. Life is lifing. And so, yeah. But I'm here today. And I don't know when I'll be back. I know I won't be here next weekend. It is what it is. But we get to finish our book today. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. And this is chapter 10, and I'm going to get right into it. Periodically, I will take a sip of my homemade Starbucks-ish type of medicine ball. All right, chapter 10, the meaning of surrender. I didn't bring my glasses up here, so I hope I can read all the words. I have an old pair, so if I need them, I can reach over and pull them out. All right, let's get into it. The meaning of surrender. Acceptance of the now. So I paused for a quick second because one of the things that is difficult to accept for me sometimes is like when somebody really helps you think differently, helps you think beyond your biases, and then they're not here anymore, right? I don't know this gentleman, but he was a YouTube content creator. I speak of him a lot. I use one of his clips now in my outro. His name was Philip Brandon Gilmore. And he helped me think beyond my, what he would call L7 or square ideology of human beings in general. He was able to use religiosity and carnality and preach and teach to both. And I appreciated that. And his life is now no longer a part of the universe that we reside in. And so like I miss that energy. I'm thankful that his videos are still available on YouTube. Part of me wants to subscribe to his Patreon. I just don't. I probably won't though, but I'm still thankful for his YouTube videos, especially his live services. Before I came live today, I did listen to one of his live services, and he was a very powerful man of God. I don't care what people think or whatever they don't think. God was in him. He knew that Bible. If he didn't know nothing else, he knew that Bible, and he was able to preach to people in spaces that a pastor in a seminary, in the church, in a congregation would not be able to reach. So continue to rest up, Philip. You did your thing while you were here. All right. That is why I thought of him. Acceptance of the now, because it is what it ain't. It is what it is. You mentioned surrender a few times. I don't like that idea. It sounds somewhat fatalistic. If we always accept the way things are, we are not going to make any effort to improve them. It seems to me what progress is all about, both in our personal lives and collectively, is not to accept the limitations of the present, but to strive to go beyond them and create something better. If we hadn't done this, we would still be living in caves. How do you reconcile surrender with changing things and getting things done? To some people, surrender may have negative connotations, implying defeat, giving up, failing to rise to the challenges of life, becoming lethargic, and so on. True surrender, however, is something entirely different. It does not mean to passively put up with whatever situation you find yourself in and to do nothing about it, nor does it mean to cease making plans or initiating positive action. Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. The only place where you can experience the flow of life is the now. So the surrender is to accept the present moment unconditionally and without reservation. It is to relinquish inner resistance to what is. Inner resistance is to say no to what is through mental judgment and emotional negativity. It becomes particularly pronounced when things go wrong, which means that there is a gap between the demands or rigid expectations of your mind and what is. That is the pain gap. If you have lived long enough, you will know that things go wrong quite often, my phrase is life is going to life. Life is going to do what life do. How do you respond to that? And where do you see yourself in that? And how much of lifing continues to come back? Because usually, if life keeps lifing in the same way with you, there's a lesson that you're supposed to learn. There's something that you're supposed to see. There is something that you're supposed to do differently so that you don't keep getting that same result of lifing that way for you. It is precisely at those times that surrender needs to be practiced. That's when you are just in the now. You can hear, you can be, and you can move and grow differently. It is precisely at those times that surrender needs to be practiced if you want to eliminate pain and sorrow from your life. That's what, like, yeah, I know I haven't read this in advance. That's kind of what I was saying. When it's something that keeps happening, it's a cycle that needs to be broken. It will keep coming at you. That's what the universe does. It's not going to stop until you do something differently. Acceptance of what is immediately frees you from mind identification and thus reconnects you with being. Resistance is the mind. Surrender is a purely inner phenomenon. It does not mean that on the outer level you cannot take action and change the situation. In fact, it is not the overall situation that you need to accept when you surrender, but just the tiny segment called the now. For example, if you were stuck in the mud somewhere, you wouldn't say, "Oh, I resign myself to being stuck in the mud." Resignation is not surrender. You don't need to accept an undesirable or unpleasant life situation, nor do you need to deceive yourself and say that there is nothing wrong with being stuck in the mud. No, you recognize fully that you want to get out of it. Then you narrow your attention down to the present moment without mentally labeling it in any way. This means that there is no judgment of the now. Therefore, there is no resistance, no emotional negativity. You accept the isness of this moment. Then you take action and do all that you can to get out of the mud. Such action I call positive action. It is far more effective than negative action, like just sitting there doing nothing. Like you got in the mud and your wheels were spinning, and so you're going to just keep spinning the wheels and getting deeper into the mud like sand and sinking. Sometimes, all the time, it's okay to pause, accept the space, and move differently. It is far more effective than negative action, which arises out of anger, despair, or frustration. Until you achieve the desired result, you continue to practice surrender by refraining from labeling the now. Let me give you a visual analogy to illustrate the point I am making. You are walking along a path at night, surrounded by a thick fog, but you have a powerful flashlight that cuts through the fog and creates a narrow, clear space in front of you. The fog is your life situation, which includes past and future. The flashlight is your conscious presence. The clear space is the now. Non-surrender hardens your psychological form, the shell of the ego, and so creates a strong sense of separateness. The world around you, and people in particular, come to be perceived as threatening. The unconscious compulsion to destroy others through judgment arises, as does the need to compete and dominate. Even nature becomes your enemy, and your perceptions and interpretations are governed by fear. The mental disease that we call paranoia is only a slightly more acute form of this normal but dysfunctional state of consciousness. Not only your psychological form, but your physical form, your body, becomes hard and rigid through resistance. Tension arises in different parts of the body, and the body as the whole contracts. The free flow of life energy through the body, which is essential for its healthy functioning, is greatly restricted. Body work and certain forms of physical therapy can be helpful in restoring this flow. But unless you practice surrender in your everyday life, those things can only give you temporary symptom relief since the cause, the resistance pattern, has not been dissolved. There is something within you that remains unaffected by the transient circumstances that make up your life situation. And only through surrender do you have access to it. It is your life, your very being, which exists eternally in the timeless realm of the present. Finding this life is the one thing that is needed that Jesus talked about. If you find your life situation unsatisfactory or even intolerable, it is only by surrendering first that you can break the unconscious resistance pattern that perpetrates that situation. Surrender is perfectly compatible with taking action, initiating change, or achieving goals. But in the surrendered state, a totally different energy, a different quality flows into your doing. Surrender reconnects you with the source energy of being. And if your doing is infused with being, it becomes a joyful celebration of life energy that takes you more deeply into the now. Through non resistance, the quality of your consciousness and therefore the quality of whatever you are doing or creating is enhanced immeasurably. The results will then look after themselves and reflect that quality. We could call this surrendered action. It is not work as we have known it for thousands of years. As more humans awaken, the word work is going to disappear from our vocabulary, and perhaps a new word will be created to replace it. It is the quality of your consciousness at this moment that is the main determinant of what kind of future you will experience. So, to surrender is the most important thing you can do to bring about positive change. Any action you take is secondary. No truly positive action can arise out of an unsurrendered state of consciousness. This is a statement from someone talking to Eckhart. I can see that if I am in a situation that is unpleasant or unsatisfactory and I completely accept the moment as it is, there will be no suffering or unhappiness. I will have risen above it. But I can't quite see where the energy or motivation for taking action and bringing about change would come from if there isn't a certain amount of dissatisfaction. In the state of surrender, you see very clearly what needs to be done, and you take action, doing one thing at a time and focusing on one thing at a time. Learn from nature. See how everything gets accomplished and how the miracle of life unfolds without dissatisfaction or unhappiness. That's why Jesus said, "Look at the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin." If you're ever outside, look up at the birds. Do the birds look worried when it rains, when it snows? The birds find food. They thrive. They migrate. Look at the bugs. Just look down sometimes and watch them. They handle their business. They don't fret. The only time I've ever seen nature in turmoil is when human beings get in their way. If you get out of the way of insects, they do their insect thing. When you put your foot in their way and they have to go around, you create a barrier that wasn't there before. When you try to shoo them from where they are, when you step on an anthill and they all come out, child, have you ever been bitten by red ants? Baby, it hurts terribly. Been there, done that. Because your humanness has interrupted their space. Just sit back and watch nature. Watch one of those. I love to watch those documentaries with animals, like in the Sahara, just being, whether they're the lions and the tigers are looking for food and prey, hippopotamuses. Like, I just love to see those things happen. They just do. Even if the animals get caught, the other ones run. They know what's happening. That's the cycle of life. Our humanness disturbs that cycle of life. But animals typically don't have stress. If an animal in your house has stress, it's because of you. We do that to domesticated animals. If your overall situation is unsatisfactory or unpleasant, separate out this instant and surrender to what is. That's the flashlight cutting through the fog. Your state of consciousness then ceases to be controlled by external conditions. You are no longer coming from reaction to resistance. Then look at the specifics of the situation. Ask yourself, is there anything I can do to change the situation, improve it, or remove myself from it? If so, you take appropriate action. Focus not on the 100 things that you will or may have to do at some future time, but on the one thing that you can do now. That doesn't mean you should not do any planning. It may well be that planning is the one thing that you can do now. But make sure you don't start to run mental movies, project yourself into the future, and so lose the now. I will also add, don't reflect on the past. You can't change it. You can grow from it, but you can't change the past. It's over. Any action you take may not bear fruit immediately. Until it does, do not resist what is. If there is no action you can take, you cannot remove yourself from the situation either. Then use the situation to make you go more deeply into surrender, more deeply into the now, more deeply into being. When you enter this timeless dimension of the present, change often comes about in strange ways without the need for a great deal of doing on your part. Life becomes helpful and cooperative. If inner factors such as fear, guilt, or inertia prevented you from taking action, they will dissolve in the light of your conscious presence. Do not confuse surrender with an attitude of, I can't be bothered anymore. Yeah, okay, wait. I got to tell y'all what just flashed through my brain. I have no idea. I had to go grocery shopping yesterday. I don't eat a lot of eggs, but my kids do. And they asked me to get them some more eggs. Yeah, I used to could get eggs at Walmart. The big box of like, I think it's more than 32. It must be like 4 dozen. I think it's about 4 dozen. Those 4 dozen of eggs used to cost somewhere between $7 and $8. Y'all, why do eggs, that thing of eggs cost $20 now? I didn't want to live in the now yesterday when I had to pay for them eggs. Like, what in the world is going on in the universe? And minimum wage is still minimally. Like $20 for a carton of eggs. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, I don't know why. I have no idea why that flashed in my brain, but I wanted to share it. All right, I'm starting this paragraph over. Do not confuse surrender with an attitude of I can't be bothered anymore or I just don't care anymore. If you look at it closely, you will find that such an attitude is tainted from negativity in the form of hidden resentment, and so is not surrender at all, but masked resistance. As you surrender, direct your attention inward to check if there is any trace of resistance left inside of you. Be very alert when you do so. Otherwise, a pocket of resistance may continue to hide in some dark corner in the form of a thought or an unacknowledged emotion. From mind energy to spiritual energy. Letting go of resistance is easier said than done. Child, losing weight is easier said than done. Waking up early in the morning is easier. Like living life is easier said than done. I still don't see clearly how to let go. Just do it. Just, just let it go. Let's see what. Let me finish. If you say it is by surrendering, the question remains how. You just do. That's my short answer. Eckhart gonna have a whole bunch of words, but I'm like, just stop. Just stop. Discipline. Discipline. Start by acknowledging that there is resistance. Be there when it happens, when the resistance arises. Observe how your mind creates it, how it labels the situation, yourself, or others. Look at the thought process involved. Feel the energy of the emotion. By witnessing the resistance, you will see that it serves no purpose. By focusing all your attention on the now, the unconscious resistance is made conscious, and that is the end of it. You cannot be conscious and unhappy, conscious and in negativity. Negativity, unhappiness, or suffering in whatever form means that there is resistance. And resistance means you are unconscious. Surely I can be conscious of my unhappy feelings. Would you choose unhappiness? If you did not choose it, how did it arise? What is its purpose? Who is keeping it alive? You say that you are conscious of your unhappy feelings, but the truth is that you are identified with them and keep the process alive through compulsive thinking. I call it stinking thinking. Some people like to be unhappy. Some people find comfort in repeating patterns. There are people in relationships that only feel love through abuse. Mental abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse. That equates to love to some people. That is not consciousness. Consciousness means I see myself. I see my destructive person. I see this destructive human that has existed, and it has to stop now. And then you make efforts to change. You don't allow that energy into your space. You set boundaries. You acknowledge what is. This is what is. And you work towards what you want. If you were conscious, that is to say, totally present in the now, all negativity would dissolve almost instantly. It could not survive in your presence. It can only survive in your absence. Even the pain body cannot survive for long in your presence. You keep your unhappiness alive by giving it time. That is its lifeblood. Remove time through intense present moment awareness and it dies. But do you want it to die? Have you truly had enough? Who would you be without it? That's basically what I was saying. Some people don't know. I'll share this with you. While I still exist on this earth, I would like to experience a true love relationship with a man. I've been married. I have children. I've been in relationships. I do not feel like I have experienced a true and honest love relationship with a man. I've seen glimpses of it through other people, but other people's definitions and feelings of that love, it varies, right? And so for me, I would like to experience that. I don't even know what that looks like. I have no idea of what it would look or feel like. The most I can put into the universe about what that would be for me is just honesty. I've never had a man, even my own father, my brother, or any relationship, be totally honest with me. And I think that would be the basis moving forward of what love would look like and feel like to me. A male that is completely honest. I've never experienced that. In 50 years of living, never experienced that. I would like to experience that. Until you practice surrender, the spiritual dimension is something you read about, talk about, get excited about, write books about, think about, believe in, or don't, as the case may be. It makes no difference. Not until you surrender does it become a living reality in your life. When you do, the energy that you emanate and which then runs your life is as a much higher vibrational frequency than the mind energy that still runs our world. The energy that created the existing social, political, and economic structures of our civilization, and which also continuously perpetrates itself through our educational systems and media. Through surrender, spiritual energy comes into this world. It creates no suffering for yourself, for other humans, or any other life form on the planet. Unlike mind energy, it does not pollute the earth, and it is not subject to the law of polarities, which dictates that nothing can exist without its opposite, that there can be no good without bad. Those who run on mind energy, which is still the vast majority of the earth's population, remain unaware of the existence of spiritual energy. It belongs to a different order of reality and will create a different world when a sufficient number of humans enter the surrendered state and so become totally free of negativity. If the earth is to survive, this will be the energy of those who inhabit it. Good morning, Foxy. Hey, boo. You off today? You work today? I would offer to go live later. What is this piece of hair doing? But you already know how I do after a certain amount of time in the afternoon. So I ain't even gonna put that energy out there. But if I have the energy, then I will text you. I still gotta work out. I still gotta make sure I got my meals prepped for the week. So you already know. You already know. I love you, boo. Good morning. Jesus referred to this energy when he made his famous prophetic statement in the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the gentle. They shall have the earth for their possession. It is a silent but intense presence that dissolves the unconscious patterns of the mind. They may still remain active for a while, but they won't run your life anymore. The external conditions that were being resisted also tend to shift or dissolve quickly through surrender. It is a powerful transformer of situations and people. If conditions do not shift immediately, your acceptance of the now enables you to rise above them. Either way, you are free. Happy birthday, Cookie! Ah, mommy, girl. I'm like, wait, how old is my mama? My mama be 79 this year. Happy birthday, Cookie. Give mommy love and hugs from me, please. Is she cooking? Or are y'all going to get her to get out the house and go somewhere? Because I know how Cookie do. Is she cooking? She probably cooking because she can't help herself. Tell her I love her and give her hugs and kisses for me. All right. Surrender in personal relationships. So, you know what this makes me think of? I'm not even. See what I'm saying? I know how Cookie do. I know she was gonna cook. She can't help herself. Like, that's who she is. I love her. If she cooking some turkey spaghetti and she got some good, can I have some, please? Bring me some food. Y'all, Foxy's mama can cook. Is she doing what is she cook? Girl, text me, please. Tell me what she cooking, because you already know. I could take some of that to work for my lunch. Okay, so let me tell you what, before I even read this section, because it's a lot. Surrender in personal relationships. So on the YouTubes, on the internets, we have this whole manosphere and submission, and women don't want to modern women don't want to submit, blah 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 blah. So I have a young man that is interested in me, right? And so he asked about that, like something about submission. And my thoughts about it is, you have to be a leader in order for somebody to submit to you. Any man that just expects a woman to submit just because he's a man is a fool, right? You have to be a man. First of all, a man is not just a grown-up version of a boy. A man is led and directed by a higher power. A man is understands himself and is connected to the source. It's connected to God. It's connected to Allah. Whatever you want to call that source or that higher being, that is what manhood is to me. And so if you need me to submit to you, I need to see that from you. I need to see that you are led by God. I need to see that God is first and foremost in your life. How can I submit to somebody that is not of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit? That's just me personally about submission. And then in order for me to submit, I got to know you got your shit together. You want me to submit to somebody that's a mess, that doesn't pay their bills, that doesn't take care of their business? I can't. Where they do that at? I can be a partner. I can help you, but I can't submit to you if you ain't got your stuff in order. When I was younger, maybe, because I thought we could grow together. But you go through phases and stages of life. And so in certain phases and stages, especially at a big 50-ish plus years old, I need you to match my energy. I can submit, but I'm not submitting to every man that I meet. That's foolishness. That's blindedness. You got to see people, and everybody that you meet or encounter is not for you. Some people come into your life for a reason, a season. I have yet to experience a lifetime from a man. I've only experienced reasons and seasons. Let's see what Eckhart says. What about people who want to use me, manipulate, or control me? Am I to surrender to them? I think I just told you no. Like, get out the manosphere, women. Quit listening to that. No, you're not supposed to submit to that. You submit to a man, not just because he is a grown man child. You submit to a leader. You submit to someone who understands his place and space in the universe and that can hear the voice of God. They are cut off from being. So they unconsciously attempt to get energy and power from you. It is true that only an unconscious person will try to use or manipulate others, but it is equally true that only an unconscious person can be used and manipulated. If you resist or fight unconscious behaviors in others, you become unconscious yourself. But surrender doesn't mean that you allow yourself to be used by unconscious people. Not at all. It is perfectly possible to say no. Child, that is my theme in life now. No is a complete answer. No is a complete sentence. No. And mean it. You can say no. No. It is perfectly possible to say no firmly and clearly to a person, or to walk away from a situation and be in a state of complete inner non resistance at the same time. When you say no to a person or a situation, let it come not from reaction, but from insight, from a clear realization of what is right or not right for you at that moment. Let it be a non reactive no, a high quality no, a no that is free of all negativity, and so creates no further suffering. I've had quite a few no's. My biggest no this year was to a family member. No, you will not hold me in my past. No, you do not get to verbally abuse me because you feel a way about me. No, no is a complete sentence. I am in a situation at work that is unpleasant. I had one this week, y'all. I tackled it head on, and I felt good about it. Being a leader of adults is really hard. Like being a teacher in front of children, like that was my ministry. I've been doing that since I was 13 years old. Helping grown-ups though, baby, it has stretched me into unknown places and spaces that I never even knew existed. It has grown me as a human. And I am very thankful that I have been doing mindfulness work before I got this job, because I don't believe I would be a really good leader if I was not mindful of myself and others. I don't think I could see them clearly if I hadn't started this mindfulness journey, this work on myself. I am in a situation at work that is unpleasant. I have tried to surrender to it, but I find it impossible. A lot of resistance keeps coming up. If you cannot surrender, take action immediately. Speak up or do something to bring about a change in a situation, or remove yourself from it. Take responsibility for your life. Do not pollute your beautiful, radiant inner being nor the earth with negativity. Do not give unhappiness in any form whatsoever a dwelling place inside you. If you cannot take action, for example, if you are in prison, then you have two choices left: resistance or surrender, bondage or inner freedom from external conditions, suffering or inner peace. This made me think of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was locked up for a really long time. But while he was there, he just spoke of his peace. Whether it was right or wrong, he was at peace. And I believe because of his peace, his presence of mind, once he was released, that's why he was able to become the president. After all those years of being locked up unfairly, unjustly, he was at peace with it. There are people in prison today who, based on society's laws, didn't do anything wrong. There are people in prison today where the laws have changed since they were locked up, but they're still locked up, serving a sentence that doesn't even exist anymore because of our man-made laws and rules of society. And I pray peace for them. It's difficult to think because you want to resist, you want to fight. One thing that I truly believe is that the universe is undefeated and that every single thing, I don't think of bad, I don't think of good, I think of isness. It is all happening exactly the way it is supposed to. Just because we have feelings about it, whether we agree with it or disagree with it, we always want to put boxes around life's events. If you can just stop and be in the moment and be present, you will find life gets a lot clearer and easier to manage if you allow what is to be. Is non-resistance also to be practiced in the external conduct of our lives, such as non-resistance to violence, or is it something that just concerns our inner life? You only need be concerned with the inner aspect that is primary. Of course, that will also transform the conduct of your outer life, your relationships, and so on. Your relationships will change profoundly by surrender. If you can never accept what is, by implication, you will not be able to accept anybody the way that they are. You will judge, criticize, label, reject, or attempt to change people. Furthermore, if you continuously make the now into a means to an end in the future, you will also make every person you encounter or relate with into a means to an end. The relationship, the human being, is then of secondary importance to you or of no importance at all. What you can get out of the relationship is primary, be it material gain, a sense of power, physical pleasure, or some form of ego gratification. Let me illustrate how surrender can work in relationships. When you become involved in an argument or some conflict situation, perhaps with a partner or someone close to you, start by observing how defensive you become as your own position is attacked, or feel the force of your own aggression as you attack the other person's position. Observe the attachment to your views and opinions. Feel the mental, emotional energy behind your need to be right and make the other person wrong. That's the energy of the egoic mind. You make it conscious by acknowledging it, by feeling it as fully as possible. Then one day, in the middle of an argument, you will suddenly realize that you have a choice. And you may decide to drop your own reaction just to see what happens. You surrender. I don't mean dropping the reaction just verbally by saying, okay, you are right, with a look on your face that says, I am above all this childish unconsciousness. That's called you are being petty. Don't be petty. That's just displacing the resistance to another level with the egoic mind still in charge, claiming superiority. I am speaking of letting go of the entire mental, emotional energy field inside you that is fighting for power. The ego is cunning, so you have to be very alert, very present, and totally honest with yourself to see whether you have truly relinquished your identification with a mental position and so freed yourself from your mind. If you suddenly feel very light, clear, and deeply at peace, that is an unmistakable sign that you have truly surrendered. I knew I had surrendered to my family member when I was able to change my behavior, when I was able to see their pain, to acknowledge their pain, and to tell them, your pain does not get to dictate me. That's for you to deal with. But I will move differently so that you don't feel as though I am the cause of your pain anymore. I can't change the past, but I can move differently now that I am aware. Then observe what happens to the other person's mental position as you no longer energize it through resistance. When identification with mental positions is out of the way, true communication begins. I will add a caveat to that. True communication can only begin if the other person also surrenders to the now. If you are in the now and you're conscious and the other person is in the past and they're unconscious and they want to hold on to that past hurt and pain, true communication still can't happen. What about non-resistance in the face of violence, aggression, and the like? Non-resistance doesn't necessarily mean doing nothing. All it means is that any doing becomes non-reactive. Remember, the deep wisdom underlying the practice of Eastern martial arts: don't resist the opponent's force, yield to overcome. Having said that, doing nothing when you are in a state of intense presence is a very powerful transformer and healer of situations and people. In Taoism, there is a term called Wu Wei, which is usually translated as actionless activity or sitting quietly, doing nothing. In ancient China, this was regarded as one of the highest achievements or virtues. It is radically different from inactivity in the ordinary state of consciousness, or rather unconsciousness, which stems from fear, inertia, or indecision. The real doing nothing implies inner non-resistance and intense alertness. On the other hand, if action is required, you will no longer react from your conditioned mind, but you will respond to the situation out of your conscious presence. In that state, your mind is free of concepts, including the concept of nonviolence. So, who can predict what you will do? The ego believes that in your resistance lies your strength, whereas in truth, resistance cuts you off from being the only place of true power. Resistance is weakness and fear masquerading as strength. What the ego sees as weakness is your being in its purity, innocence, and power. What it sees as strength is weakness. So the ego exists in a continuous resistance mode and plays counterfeit roles to cover up your weakness, which in truth is your power. Until there is surrender, unconscious role playing constitutes a large part of human interaction. In surrender, you no longer need ego, defenses, and false masks. You become very simple, very real. That's dangerous, says the ego. You'll get hurt. You'll become vulnerable. What the ego doesn't know, of course, is that only through the letting go of resistance, through becoming vulnerable, can you discover your true and essential invulnerability. I have a story that I want to share, but I'm not going to. Unless I can reframe it real quick in my brain. Okay. I think I can. So I have a younger gentleman that I guess he's interested in me, and it's weird. So I know my number, my age number in like the earthly realm, but I am kind of like a big not a big kid, like I'm a grown up, but I'm not like an old lady mentally, except I do go to bed really early. But like other than that, I'm kind of, I'm kind of cool, I'm kind of hip. But like my age is what it is, these little creases things be creasing, and sometimes when I wake up, the puffies is puffying way more than when I was younger. The bones be boning, the knees is kneeing, all the things are happening. So this young man finds me interesting, I guess. And so trying to be mindful that I'm not like constantly bringing up age differences is hard if I'm going to be in the present. So when he says, what the ego doesn't know, of course, is that only through the letting go of resistance of this age continuum that we live in because of society and, having to keep track and put us in boxes, through becoming vulnerable. Like you want me to be vulnerable with somebody that's younger than me? Can you discover your true and essential invulnerability? Y'all pray for me. Because that is my human balance of challenge. Like, okay, so the universe put this person in my space, and I'm supposed to navigate vulnerability in this space. This is new. This is different. Work with me, universe. Give me some guidance here. Yeah, work with me. All right. Transforming illness into enlightenment. If someone is seriously ill and completely accepts their condition and surrenders to the illness, would they not have given up their will to get back to health? The determination to fight the illness would not be there anymore, would it? The only reason that I know that this is not true is because I have a child that was born with an illness, and the illness is what it is, but it doesn't mean you don't take medication. It doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself and what you put inside of your body. You acknowledge this thing exists and you do everything you can to keep it at bay. It's not saying that I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm not going to do this. Foxley, are you laughing at me and the young man? Yes, it's very difficult. You want me to surrender to a young man? A young man. It's cute though. I think it's the cutest thing ever. Like he'll say something to me, he'll be like, don't do that. And I'll be like, you talking to me? He'll be like, yeah. All right, get the old lady in check. I like that. That's cute. I need that kind of energy in my life, young man. Yes. I'd be like, you should do this. He'd be like, nah, you do it. Oh, for real? And then I had to get in my head and be like, okay, don't cut your slick, because I got a really smart mouth. My tongue is it's a little sharp sometimes. I'm working on it because I practice mindfulness. So before I respond, I have to be like, okay. Be mindful, be thoughtful, check your energy, child. You said you wanted some certain characteristics. You needed somebody that could tell your ass to sit down when you need to. He might be it for now. Maybe not for forever, but for now. I know, right? It is cute. It's cute. It's cute. It's cute. And I don't really take it like seriously. Like it's just cute. It's cute to have that type of energy in my life right now. Like I need that. I'm thankful for it. Okay, anyway. Back to the book. All right. So we're talking about illnesses and surrendering to, like, prime example. There's so much mental illness on YouTube, on social media in general. And so you don't run around these internet streets and have a mental illness and just be like, oh, I know something is wrong with my brain. It just is what it is. I get to say and do whatever just because I have this mental illness. No, God. You can acknowledge that something is wrong and take medication. You can acknowledge that something is wrong and go see a therapist. You can acknowledge that something is wrong and be mindful of your behaviors and redirect yourself when you are out of pocket. It's a lot of out of pocketness on these YouTube streets. Girl. Okay, let's see what Eckhart says. Surrender is inner acceptance of what is without any reservations. We are talking about your life, this instant, not the conditions or circumstances of your life, not what I call your life situation. We have spoken about this already. With regard to illness, that is what it means. Illness is a part of your life situation. As such, it has a past and a future. Past and future form an uninterrupted continuum unless the redeeming power of the now is activated through your conscious presence. As you know, underneath the various conditions that make up your life situation, which exists in time, there is something deeper, more essential: your life, your very being in the timeless now. As there are no problems in the now, there is no illness either. The belief in a label that someone attaches to your condition keeps the condition in place, empowers it, and makes a seemingly solid reality out of a temporary imbalance. It gives it not only reality and solidity, but also a continuity in time that it did not have before. By focusing on this instant and refraining from labeling it mentally, illness is reduced to one or several of these factors: physical pain, weakness, discomfort, or disability. That is what you surrender to now. You do not surrender to the ideal of illness. Allow this suffering to force you into the present moment, into a state of intense conscious presence. Use it for enlightenment. Surrender does not transform what is, at least not directly. Surrender transforms you. When you are transformed, your whole world is transformed because the world is only a reflection. We spoke about this earlier. If you looked in the mirror and did not like what you saw, you would have to be mad to attack the image in the mirror. That is precisely what you do when you are in a state of non-acceptance. And, of course, if you attack the image, it attacks you back. If you accept the image, no matter what it is, if you become friendly toward it, it cannot become friendly towards you. This is how you change the world. Illness is not the problem. You are the problem. As long as the egoic mind is in control. When you are ill or disabled, do not feel that you have failed in some way. Do not feel guilty. Do not blame life for treating you unfairly. But do not blame yourself either. All that is resistance. If you have a major illness, use it for enlightenment. Anything bad, and that's in quotes, because remember, there is no bad, there is no good. It is what it is. It is what it ain't. Isness. Anything bad that happens in your life, use it for enlightenment. Withdraw time from the illness. Do not give it any past or future. Let it force you into intense present moment awareness and see what happens. Become an alchemist. Transmute base metal into gold, suffering into consciousness, disaster into enlightenment. Are you seriously ill and feeling angry now? about what I have just said, then that is a clear sign that the illness has become a part of your sense of self and that you are now protecting your identity as well as protecting the illness. The condition that is labeled illness has nothing to do with who you truly are. When disaster strikes, as far as the still unconscious majority of the population is concerned, only a critical limit situation has the potential to crack the hard shell of the ego and force them into surrender and so into the awkward awakened state. A limit situation arises when, through some disaster, drastic upheaval, deep loss, or suffering, your whole world is shattered and doesn't make sense anymore. It is an encounter with death, be it physical or psychological. The egoic mind, the creator of this world, collapses. Out of the ashes of the old world, a new world can come into being. There is no guarantee, of course, that even a limit situation will do it, but the potential is always there. Some people's resistance to what is even intensifies in such a situation, and so it becomes a descent into hell. In others, there may only be partial surrender, but even that will give them a certain depth of serenity that were not there before. Parts of the ego shell break off, and this allows small amounts of the radiance and peace that lie beyond the mind to shine through. Limit situations have produced many miracles. There have been murderers on death row waiting for execution who, in the last few hours of their lives, experienced the egoless state and the deep joy and peace that come with it. The inner resistance to the situation they found themselves in became so intense as to produce unbearable suffering, and there was nowhere to run and nothing to do to escape it, not even a mind projected future. So they were forced into complete acceptance of the unacceptable. They were forced into surrender. In this way, they were able to enter the state of grace with which comes redemption, complete release from the past. Of course, it is not really the limit situation that makes room for the miracle of grace and redemption, but the act of surrender. So, whenever any kind of disaster strikes or something goes seriously wrong, illness, disability, loss of home or fortune, or of a socially defined identity, breakup of a close relationship, death, or suffering of a loved one, or your own impending death, know that there is another side to it, that you are just one step away from something incredible, a complete alchemical transmutation of the base metal of pain and suffering into gold. The one step is called surrender. I do not mean to say that you will become happy in such a situation. You will not. But fear and pain will become transmuted into your inner peace and serenity that come from a very deep place, from the unmanifested itself. It is the peace of God which passes all understanding. Compared to that, happiness is quite a shallow thing. With this radiant peace comes the realization, not on the level of mind, but within the depth of your being, that you are indestructible, immortal. This is not a belief. It is absolute certainty that needs no external evidence or proof from some secondary source. My message that I have pinned says, Happy Sunday, blessings to everyone. I pray peace for you. I don't pray happiness. I pray peace. Protect your peace. Be at peace. Spread peace. Within that peace, you can just be present. Transforming suffering into peace. I read about a Stoic philosopher in ancient Greece who, when he was told that his son had died in an accident, replied, I knew he was not immortal. Is that surrender? If it is, I don't want it. There are some situations in which surrender seems unnatural and inhuman. Being cut off from your feelings is not surrender, but we don't know what his inner state was when he said those words. In certain extreme situations, it may still be impossible for you to accept the now, but you always get a second chance at surrender. Your first chance is to surrender each moment to the reality of that moment, knowing that what is cannot be undone because it already is. You say yes to what is or accept what isn't. Then you do what you have to do, whatever the situation requires. If you abide in this state of acceptance, you create no more negativity, no more suffering, no more unhappiness. You then live in a state of non-resistance, a state of grace and lightness, free of struggle. Whenever you are unable to do that, whenever you miss that chance, either because you are not generating enough conscious presence to prevent some habitual and unconscious resistance pattern from arising, or because the condition is so extreme as to be absolutely unacceptable to you, then you are creating some form of pain, some form of suffering. It may look as if the situation is creating the suffering, but ultimately, this is not so. Your resistance is. Now, here is your second chance at surrender. If you cannot accept what is outside, then accept what is inside. If you cannot accept the external condition, accept the internal condition. This means do not resist the pain. Allow it to be there. Surrender to the grief, despair, fear, loneliness, or whatever form the suffering takes. Witness it without labeling it mentally. Embrace it. Then see how the miracle of surrender transmutes deep suffering into deep peace. This is your crucifixion. Let it become your resurrection and ascension. I do not see how one can surrender to suffering. As you yourself pointed out, suffering is non-surrender. How do you surrender to non-suffering? Forget about suffering for a moment. When your pain is deep, all talk of surrender will probably seem futile and meaningless anyway. When your pain is deep, you will likely have a strong urge to escape from it rather than surrender to it. You don't want to feel what you feel. What could be more normal? But there is no escape. There's no way out. There are many pseudo escapes: work, drink, drugs, anger, projection, suppression, and so on. But they don't free you from the pain. Suffering does not diminish in intensity when you make it unconscious. When you deny emotional pain, everything you do or think, as well as your relationships, become contaminated with it. You broadcast it, so to speak, as the energy you emanate, and others will pick it up subliminally. If you are unconscious, they may even feel compelled to attack or hurt you in some way, or you may hurt them in an unconscious projection of your pain. You attract and manifest whatever corresponds to your inner state. Okay, so listen, I got to put a pen right here. I spoke of this at the very beginning of a relationship that I would like to experience while I am still here, while my energy is still in this human form on earth. And that is a truth relationship from a man. I've never experienced that in my life. Never. Never. Been married, got kids, dated, had long relationships. They were all based on lies. Every single one of them. And on this side of life, as I look down the hill, I want to be mindful of the energy that I am bringing into me, because something about my energy on that side of life pulled those people to me. I am hoping that my energy, my conscious energy, now that I see and I have reflected on my past relationships and I can see myself, I am aware. And that if that is not the energy that I am attracting, that I can nip it in the bud to say that if I sense falseness, if I sense untruthness, I can dispel that energy way more quickly than getting involved, getting emotionally attached to somebody that does not bring to me truth and honesty. That is my hope as I move on this side of life. Look down this side of the mountain of life, when I am aware that I have more years in front of me, more years behind me than I have in front of me. I want to be really conscious and aware of the energy that I bring into me. And it's not just a male-female relationship, just friendships, but my friendships are pretty solid. But work relationships, same. But definitely this change and shift of energy that I attract from a man, I want it to be different. When there is no way out, there is still always a way through. So don't turn away from the pain. Face it, feel it fully, feel it. Don't think about it. Express it if necessary, but don't create a script in your mind around it. Give it all your attention. Give all your attention to the feeling, not to the person, event, or situation that seems to have caused it. Don't let the mind use the pain to create a victim identity for yourself out of it. Feeling sorry for yourself and telling others your story will keep you stuck in suffering. Since it is impossible to get away from the feeling, the only possibility of change is to move into it. Otherwise, nothing will shift. So give your complete attention to what you feel and refrain from mentally labeling it. As you go into the feeling, be intensely alert. At first, it may seem like a dark and terrifying place. And when the urge to turn away from it comes, observe it, but don't act on it. Keep putting your attention on the pain. Keep feeling the grief, the fear, the dread, the loneliness, whatever it is. Stay alert, stay present. Present with your whole being, with every cell of your body. As you do so, you are bringing a light into this darkness. This is the flame of your consciousness. At this stage, you don't need to be concerned with surrender anymore. It has happened already. How? Full attention is full acceptance, is surrender. By giving full attention, you use the power of the now, which is the power of your presence. No hidden pocket of resistance can survive in it. Presence removes time. Without time, no suffering, no negativity can survive. The acceptance of suffering is a journey into death. Facing deep pain, allowing it to be, taking your attention into it, is to enter death consciously. When you have died this death, you realize that there is no death and there is nothing to fear. Only the ego dies. Imagine a ray of sunlight that has forgotten it is an inseparable part of the sun and deludes itself into believing it has to fight for survival and create and cling to an identity other than the sun. Would the death of this delusion not be incredibly liberating? Do you want an easy death? Would you rather die without pain, without agony, than die to the past every moment and be the light of your presence? Shine away the heavy, time-bound self you thought of as you. The way of the cross. There are many accounts of people who say they have found God through their deep suffering. And there is the Christian expression, the way of the cross, which I suppose points to the same thing. We are concerned with nothing else here. Strictly speaking, they did not find God through their suffering, because suffering implies resistance. They found God through surrender, through total acceptance of what He is. They must have realized on some level that their pain was self-centered. How do you equate surrender with finding God? Since resistance is inseparable from the mind, relinquishment of resistance, surrender, is the end of the mind as your master, the imposter pretending to be you, the false God. All judgment and all negativity dissolve. The realm of being, which has been obscured by the mind, then opens up. Suddenly, a great stillness arises within you, an unfathomable sense of peace. And within that peace, there is great joy. And within that joy, there is love. And at that innermost core, there is the sacred, the immeasurable, that which cannot be named. I don't call it finding God, because how can you find that which was never lost? The very life that you are. The word God is limiting, not only because of thousands of years of misperception and misuse, but also because it implies an entity other than you. God is being itself, not a being. God is in you. God is, the Godness is in us. It is in you. It is in me. It is everybody. All you got to do is connect to it. Don't ignore it. Listen to it. Find it. Find the peace within yourself. It's not out here in the world. It is not coming from another human being. It is within you. There can be no subject-object relationship here. No duality. No you and God. God realization is the most natural thing that there is. The amazing and incomprehensible fact is not that you can become conscious of God, but that you are not conscious of God. The way of the cross that you mentioned is the old way to enlightenment, and until recently, it was the only way. But don't dismiss it or underestimate its efficacy. It still works. She is making white beans. I want some. Wait. What's in the chili? Is it turkey or is it beef? If it's turkey, or ground chicken, I want some. Let me know. The way of the cross is a complete reversal. It means that the worst thing in your life, your cross, turns into the best thing that ever happened to you by forcing you into surrender, into death, forcing you to become as nothing, to become as God, because God too is no thing. At this time, as far as the unconscious majority of humans is concerned, the way of the cross is still the only way. I want some. I want some. Bring me some back, Foxy. They will only awaken through further suffering, and enlightenment as a collective phenomenon will be predictably preceded by vast upheavals. This process reflects the workings of certain universal laws that govern the growth of unconsciousness and thus was foreseen by some seers. It is described, among other places, in the book of Revelation or Apocalypse, though cloaked in obscure and sometimes impenetrable symbology. Y'all, when I had to read, I read. When I read the book of Revelations, I was confused. It's so much imagery in Revelations. It's kind of scary in Revelations. But Revelations is an awakening to your inner being, to your soul. It literally is a connection of what isness is in that book of Revelations. It is not like when I grew up in a Baptist church. And the religiosity taught me like Revelations was this thing that happened at the end of the world. That is what I grew up believing until I read the Bible for myself. I read the Bible for myself from front to back. And now that I am practicing mindfulness, it merges together. All of that is a story of who we are. All of that shows us our illnesses, the things, the evils that we fight within ourselves, and how we can overcome them. That is what the revelation shows you, the work that it does to overcome those things. This suffering is inflicted not by God, but by humans on themselves and on each other, as well as by certain defensive measures that the earth, which is a living, intelligent organism, is going to take to protect herself from the onslaught of human madness. However, there is a growing number of humans alive today whose consciousness is sufficiently evolved not to need any more suffering before the realization of enlightenment. You may be one of them. I don't know if I know that I am, but that is my goal. That is my goal. I don't want to have suffering anymore. I don't want to have pain anymore. I don't want to have emotional reactions anymore. Enlightenment through suffering, the way of the cross, means to be forced into the kingdom of heaven, kicking and screaming. You finally surrender because you can't stand the pain anymore. But the pain could go on for a long time until this happens. Enlightenment, consciously chosen, means to relinquish your attachment to past and future and to make the now the main focus of your life. It means choosing to dwell in the state of presence rather than in time. It means saying yes to what is. You then don't need pain anymore. How much more time do you think you will need before you are able to say, I will create no more pain, no more suffering? How much more pain do you need to experience before you choose that you are tired of that pain body? How much more? I'll stop doing this when that happens. I'll stop taking drugs when that happens. I'll stop eating unhealthy food when it's New Year's Eve. I'll stop fornicating when I find the right person. How long are you going to live like that? How long do you choose everybody else but yourself? How long do you allow addiction to control you? If you think that you need more time, you will get more time through pain. Because time and pain are inseparable. The power to choose. What about all those people who it seems actually want to suffer? Because there are people who need pain to be. I have a friend whose partner is physically abusive toward her, and her previous relationship was of a similar kind. What does she choose? Why does she choose such men? And why is she refusing to get out of that situation now? Why do so many people actually choose pain? I know that the word choose is a favorite New Age term, but it isn't entirely accurate in this context. It is misleading to say that somebody chose a dysfunctional relationship or any other negative situation in his or her life. Choice implies consciousness. I just learned something. Choice implies consciousness. When you are unconsciously moving through the world and the pain body has ruled your universe, your being, you didn't choose the pain. It is just what is normal to you, girl. Look at you over here growing up on a Sunday with YouTube. It's not a choice. I didn't choose pain. I don't know anything else. It is all I know because I am unconscious. Light bulb moment. Choice implies consciousness, a higher degree of consciousness. Without it, you have no choice. Choice begins the moment you disidentify from the mind and its conditioned patterns, the moment you become present. Until you reach that point, you are unconscious, spiritually speaking. This means that you are compelled to think, feel, and act in certain ways according to the condition of your mind. That is why Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." This is not related to intelligence in the conventional sense of the word. I have met many highly intelligent and educated people who were also completely unconscious, which is to say, completely identified with their mind. In fact, if mental development and increased knowledge are not counterbalanced by a corresponding growth in consciousness, the potential for unhappiness and disaster is very great. I see humans every day who are highly educated and unconscious. I'm just reflecting, y'all. This is deep. This is really deep for me. Your friend is stuck in a relationship with an abusive partner and not for the first time. Why? No choice. The mind, conditioned by its past, always seeks to recreate what it knows and is familiar with. Even if it is painful, at least it is familiar. The mind always adheres to the known. The unknown is dangerous because it has no control over it. That's why the mind dislikes and ignores the present moment. Present moment awareness creates a gap, not only in the stream of mind, but also in the past future continuum. Nothing truly new and creative can come into this world except through that gap. that clear space of infinite possibility. So your friend, being identified with her mind, may be recreating a pattern learned in the past in which intimacy and abuse are inseparably linked. Alternatively, she may be acting out a mind pattern learned in early childhood, according to which she is unworthy and deserves to be punished. It is possible, too, that she lives a large part of her life through the pain body, which always seeks more pain on which to feed. Her partner has his own unconscious patterns, which complement hers. Of course, her situation is self-centered, but who or what the self that is doing the creating? A mental emotional pattern from the past, no more. Why make a self out of it? If you tell her that she has chosen her condition or situation, you are reinforcing her state of mind identification. But is her mind pattern who she is? Is it herself? Is her true identity derived from the past? Show your friend how to be the observing presence behind her thoughts and her emotions. Tell her about the pain body and how to free herself from it. Teach her the art of inner body awareness. Demonstrate to her the meaning of presence. As soon as she is able to access the power of the now and thereby break through her conditioned past, then she will have a choice. Then she will have a choice. I know, right? Like it's so many thoughts in my brain right now, Foxy. Like it all is making sense. We live life. It's not a choice. You didn't choose addiction because you didn't know. You got to be conscious to make a choice. Like that is just like my brain is like this right now, y'all. It's like ding, 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 ding. All of the lights are lighting. You didn't choose it. You are unconsciously living life, just doing what feels good. And pain feels good to some people. They like it because that's all that they know. They are not conscious. So it wasn't a choice. It just was. Woo. Nobody chooses dysfunction. Oh my goodness, y'all. Like do y'all feel like I feel that? It's like an energy just happened. Nobody chooses dysfunction, conflict, pain. Nobody chooses insanity. They happen because there is not enough presence in you to dissolve the past, not enough light to dispel the darkness. You are not fully here. You have not quite woken up yet. In the meantime, the conditioned mind is running your life. I didn't know either. Similarly, if you are one of the many people who have an issue with their parents, if you still harbor resentment about something they did or did not do, then you still believe that they had a choice, that they could have acted differently. It always looks as if people had a choice. That is an illusion. I didn't know that either. I'm learning right with y'all at this very moment. In this now moment, I am learning some new information. As long as your mind with its conditioned patterns runs your life, as long as you are your mind, what choice do you have? None. You are not even there. The mind identified state is severely dysfunctional. It is a form of insanity. Almost everyone is suffering from this illness in varying degrees. The moment you realize this, there can be no more resentment. How can you resent someone's illness? The only appropriate response is compassion. Mm, 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 mm. So that means nobody is responsible for what they do. I don't like that idea. If you are run by your mind, although you have no choice, you will still suffer the consequences of your unconsciousness, and you will create further suffering. You will bear the burden of fear, conflict, problems, and pain. The suffering thus created will eventually force you out of your conscious state. What you say about choice also applies to forgiveness, I suppose. You need to be fully conscious and surrender before you can forgive. Forgiveness is a term that has been in use for 2,000 years, but most people have a very limited view of what it means. You cannot truly forgive yourself or others as long as you derive your sense of self from the past. Only through accessing the power of the now, which is your own power, can there be true forgiveness. This renders the past powerless, and you realize deeply that nothing you ever did or that was ever done to you could touch even in the slightest radiant essence of who you are. The whole concept of forgiveness then becomes unnecessary. Wait, what? I'm going to read this again, y'all. I'm shook. I'm shook. I'm a little shook right now. Forgiveness is a term that has been in use for 2,000 years, but most people have a very limited view of what it means. You cannot truly forgive yourself or others as long as you derive your sense of self from the past. Only through accessing the power of the now, which is your own power, can there be true forgiveness. This renders the past powerless, and you realize deeply that nothing you ever did or that was ever done to you could touch even the slightest radiant essence of who you are. The whole concept of forgiveness is unnecessary. Oh my goodness. How do I get to that point of realization? When you surrender to what is and so become fully present, the past ceases to have any power. You do not need it anymore. Presence is the key. The now is the key. How do I know when I have surrendered? You don't have to ask that question. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for helping me grow. Fair exchange ain't no robbery. I hope you are able to grow. We have finished Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. Surrender to the now. Sacrifice your ego and let it go. I love you, YouTube family. I'll see you in a couple weeks. I'm not sure when. It'll be a few weeks though. You all have a blessed Sunday. Have a blessed week. Protect your peace and surrender. Sacrifice and surrender. I love you.
Instagram. You're seeing all the A's on the report card. You didn't see the sacrifices that was made. Remember when Sin told you that the price of success is sacrifice. You cannot escape sacrifice. From spirituality to carnality, sacrifice is a necessity. You're going to have to sacrifice. You want that bitch? Sacrifice. Want that mansion? Sacrifice. You want them cars? Sacrifice. You want that jewelry? Sacrifice. You want that clout? Sacrifice. You want that body? Sacrifice. Even in God, you want that anointing? Sacrifice. You want to preach like that? Sacrifice. You want to be knowledgeable like that? Sacrifice. Whatever life you live, you cannot escape sacrifice.